Welcome to Level Up Architect, the channel where we explore the world of architecture, one architect at a time. I'm your host Lionel, and welcome back to our adventure. I have some good news. The channel now has a Facebook page as well as Instagram and Twitter. Links to these can be found in the video's description. I plan on doing some fun questions and polls on the Twitter account. In fact, if you head over to the Twitter account after you've watched this video, you will find a poll where you can choose your favorite architect out of the previous 4 architects we covered on this channel. If you are tired of receiving WhatsApp messages about my latest video, please follow me on your preferred social media platform. If you like these videos, please hit the like button, and if you are new around here, please hit the red subscribe button down below. It helps the channel out a lot. In today's video, I would like to introduce you to an American architect named Steven Holl, and 5 of my favorite buildings by him. Let's go meet Steven Holl. This is Steven Holl. He is the principal architect and founding member of Steven Holl Architects. He has won numerous awards, and according to Time magazine, he is America's best architect for his buildings that satisfy both the eye and the spirit. I can go on and on about the numerous awards he's won and who Steven Holl is, but I think it is much easier to show you. This is Writing with Lighthouse. It is situated in Long Island in the United States and was completed in 2004. This house beautifully demonstrates one of Steven Holl's signature concepts that he uses in almost all of his projects. The house starts off as a solid block, but then gets slowly dissolved and carved into to form the interior and exterior spaces. Steven Holl leaves traces of the original form with this timber frame, almost as if he's dotting the lines for us to complete the shape. This is the view from the upper deck of the house. Here you can see how the timber frame signifies the shape of the house while simultaneously framing views into the surrounding landscape. The interior of the house is bathed in light. This is a result of the way that Steven Holl strategically carved the final form of the house. The rest of the interiors are similarly carved, almost as if it was, once again, a solid block. Here you can see how the solid block almost looks and how it starts dissolving. This house perfectly demonstrates on a small scale how Steven Holl carves and shapes his architecture. This is what I believe to be one of Steven Holl's signature moves and a very important part of his design language. Another example of Steven Holl's sculptural approach to architecture is the Queens Public Library at Hunters Point in New York. This project was completed in 2019 and resulted in what I believe to be quite a beautiful building. The windows of the building are carved in such a way to reveal the function of the building and allow passers-by a glimpse into the interior spaces. The windows also allow for views out onto New York's East River. This grand staircase facilitates this view out onto the East River and allows access to this terraced book stack. This image brings me to the second thing that I think is a signature of Steven Holl. He has an incredibly powerful way of diagrammatically explaining his buildings through watercolor sketches and paintings. This diagram very clearly explains his ideas of the terraced book stacks, the grand staircase, the opening in the facade of the building with the view out onto the East River and the Manhattan skyline in the distance. The rest of the building's interior is treated in a very similar fashion and results in a very spacious and well-lit library. In this diagram, he very clearly demonstrates how he pushes the main movement onto the edge of the facade to facilitate those views out onto the East River. In the end, Steven Holl created a very beautiful library that contributes to the city not only in terms of its function, but also in terms of its aesthetic appeal. This iconic building will remain in the hearts and minds of the inhabitants of New York for a very, very long time to come. My third favorite building by Steven Holl is the Visual Arts Building of the University of Iowa that was completed in 2016. This building once again shows how Steven Holl loves to carve into his building to create voids and to shape the interior spaces. In this case, he separates the building into horizontal slices and carves each void a little bit differently. This results in a series of terraces that facilitate communication between the different levels. Steven Holl once again makes use of beautiful watercolor diagrams to unpack the building and explain his intentions clearly. This diagram explains how the building becomes vertically porous by the introduction of the voids that sit on the exterior of the building, as well as the void that forms the atrium on the interior of the building. This diagram shows how the balconies as well as the staircases become a social space. And finally, this diagram shows how he carves the voids, or what he calls the multiple centers of light, into the overall shape of the building, and similarly creates the atrium space on the interior. The final thing I would quickly like to point out on this building is the way that Steven Holl treats the external facade of the building. There's a very small difference in the way he treats the cutouts versus the rest of the facade. All of this reinforces the idea that this building is porous in nature. The voids with its full height glazing versus the scattered square windows along the rest of the facade, with light either spilling into the spaces or at night coming out of the spaces, almost revealing this sponge-like building. To me, it's quite a beautiful building and the perfect backdrop to breed creativity. This is Maggie's Center at Barts, located in London and was completed in 2017. The building sits in a historically dense part of London, and its function is to help people with cancer as well as their family and friends. The building can be separated into three parts: the external glazed skin, the branching concrete structure that sits just inside the glazed skin, and an internal core made of bamboo. I really enjoy the colorful pattern that lights up on the facade. In this diagram, Steven Holl unwraps the building and shows how this colorful pattern is actually an abstraction of a very old 13th century type of music notation. It gives the building quite a whimsical quality. Once again, Steven Holl makes wonderful watercolor diagrams, and in this diagram he shows the three different portions of the building. Firstly, the glazed exterior facade with the music notation, then the concrete branching structure to hold everything together, and the inner layer made up of bamboo. There is one last thing I would like to say about this building. While I believe this building is quite bold and quite striking, I also believe that the building has a way of respecting its historical context. The rounded corners of the building not only gives the building quite a soft appearance, but it also allows the building to very literally step back from the front-facing facade of the older buildings as a sign of respect. This is a beautiful little building that shines like a beacon of hope for the people it serves. The final building, and undoubtedly my favorite, is the Lewis Art Complex at Princeton University in the US that was completed in 2017. This building brings together most of Steven Holl's design concepts in a clever and mature way and results in a breathtaking building. Steven Holl understands the importance of context, and in this case, he designs the building to act as a gateway to the rest of the campus by allowing people to walk through and over the building itself. The entire building is very clearly explained through this watercolor diagram. The building is separated into three components: the dance department, the music department, and the poetry department. All three of these separate buildings are connected with the use of a forum that sits underneath this pond. This video on Steven Holl's website really shows off how well the building works. This is the dance department, which is a thing within a thing, almost like Maggie's center at Barts. And it shows how the building allows paths to cross and traverse over the building itself in a very clever way. I enjoy how the forum acts as a meeting ground for, this is the forum, it acts as a meeting ground for all of the departments to come together. This is the music department, which almost acts like the inverse of what Steven Holl usually does. In fact, he usually carves out spaces into a solid. In this case, he starts using a void and introduces solids into the building. It's very clever. The solids would then become practice spaces for the musicians with instruments ready for them to practice on. And below all of these little pockets is a performance space. This would be the performance space, and that's how people walk past the building and then has a glimpse into the activities within the buildings. It's very clever and very beautifully done. Yeah, here he uses the watercolor diagram to explain how the things work. It's very cleverly done and very, very beautiful. It's so gorgeous. This photo really clearly shows how he reverses his idea of carving into a solid. In this case, the solid becomes a void, and he introduces solid shapes almost suspended into the building itself. These are the practice spaces, and underneath it is a large performance space. In short, this is definitely my favorite Steven Holl building because, like Time magazine said, this building satisfies both the eye as well as the soul. Those were my 5 favorite buildings by Steven Holl. Please let me know what you thought about these buildings in the comments down below. And if you have a suggestion for an architect that you would like to see in the next video, please feel free to make a request by commenting on this video. Links to everything can be found in the video's description. Please remember to follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever works for you, and remember to go vote on your favorite architect from the previous 4 architects. If you liked the video, please remember to hit that like button and share this video with a friend. And if you are new around here, please hit this handy subscribe button. And this video is suggested to you by YouTube, so maybe you should go watch it. Thank you for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next video.